Check, check. So this topic, first of all, glory be to God. Welcome back. Lifted Noise. I'll kind of wait a little bit. So this is a subject I was thinking about a couple days ago, and today I just came across a live stream from, I believe it's B-Boy Tech Report, and they had someone on from Roland who was part of the team who kind of developed the new SP404 MK2 and some of the features there, and it was a great conversation. Haven't been through the whole video, but since this was on my mind prior to today, and then this brought it up, decided just to jump on and have a little discussion with you guys if you guys are willing to have a conversation with me about features. Since also recently I've noticed that the Force came out with Kai came out with a firmware update for the Force, and then now has disc streaming. I haven't actually looked at any of the videos regarding that or any of the other features that might be with it. Just not really interested at this moment. I was following along. What's up, Studio Gangsta? I was following along with the Force updates as they came prior to when we got 2.10 with the MPC, just because I think the conversation was kind of at this point where everyone thought that we were going to go to 3.0 and then we would see all the features that the Force has come to the MPC. And not that that's not possible, that we won't see disc streaming soon or anytime in the near future or the future at all, whatever that time frame is. Maybe we'll have it. But I just wanted to talk about this idea of like feature bloat, because it came up in the B-Boy Tech Report podcast stream that I was watching with the guest. I forget what his name was, but he did like the presentation. If any of you caught the SP404 like premiere when they had that video drop, it was like at midnight, and I was like waiting for it because of the leak and all that, and I've actually put mine on pre-order, so I'm expecting that soon. Excited about that. But the concept is of like not having these machines do everything. You know, if we're talking about samplers / sequencers, I feel like there are a few key things that it should do very well, and then with the other stuff, like what the MPC has become is really a full, almost DAW, synthesizer, sequencer, sampler, and all this stuff. But I don't feel like adding all these features necessarily makes it a better sampler, just makes it an overall, I don't know, just in a way, it's a Swiss Army knife, you know what I mean? So, I haven't actually ever put any feature requests like into any forums or any like, you know, no like legitimate feature requests. I've made videos in the past, and I feel like there's a lot of things you can do to develop the firmware and the hardware so that they interact together to really do what they do best as a sampler / sequencer, which I think the MPC is best known for. I'm really interested in the 4.4 because of its simplicity. So if you guys have any thoughts on this matter, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I will check them out, and we can have this conversation. But first thing I was thinking about is one feature that's in the MPC that hasn't really had much development, which I think should, is like the explode tracks. And maybe it's just my like OCD and stuff, but if we take a look at my overhead of my MPC, so I'm gonna try to do a little drum beat here real quick. Okay, so I've created a template where I have all my drums on track 1. So if I want to finger drum a whole beat, I actually had to move this crash because it's the way that I considered when I made this template. Hold on. Why am I not? I'm not copying, not pressing the right button. But anyways. Okay, so I made this template with all my sequences and tracks named. Okay, I fucked that up. Hold up. Okay, let's just leave it as is. So I made a template. Sabrina Art Life, hi, how you doing? So I made a template, and then my drums are laid out like this, right? This should be my crash, but I made this kit without considering how I made my template. But I made the first 8 pads, all my drums, and then I made the tracks, labeled them corresponding to how the drums are laid. Because when you use Track Explode, it puts each and X note on the following track, right? So I've got all drums right here. So if I'm gonna record them all here, then explode this track, it's gonna explode them to the next track. So my kick is gonna land here, my snare is gonna land here, my hi-hat's gonna land here. But one problem is I'm not necessarily, see, I have an open hat here. I'm not necessarily gonna I don't want this closed hi-hat or open hi-hat on a separate track, but that's the way that Track Explode is gonna work. It's gonna put it on 2 different tracks. I want my hi-hat. So this time ago, maybe a year or 2 ago, I made a first kind of like feature request video, and what I was requesting is that they do some improvements to Track Explode where you can create track groups. You know what I mean? So you can determine what pads go to explode onto a certain track. Because also, if you were doing a whole finger drumming set and you had chops up here, I mean, what would be the logic of having separate chops on different tracks? You wouldn't want that. That doesn't make any sense. So I mean, what are people using Track Explode for? I mean, so you can make a beat and play it in a natural way, you know, with your human feel of your finger drumming. I think that's how I would use it, and then want to explode it in an organized way where my kick is on a track, my snare is on a track, my open and hold and close hi-hats on another track, my crash and cymbals are on another track, you know what I mean? And my chops are all on one track. Track groups, Track Explode groups would be something of a workflow improvement. And so I feel like these samplers and sequencers, it's awesome what you've seen them become, but it would be cool to see them kind of step back and strip it down and make the hardware really talk to the actual firmware in ways that improve the workflow. Because I think that's why this shines so much, because I haven't myself seen a sequencer sampler that has a better workflow than the MPC. But it's becoming kind of bloated when you add all these other features. Like, it's nice to have, you know, like all the synths built in and the audio tracks. I'm not knocking that at all. I think the audio tracks are great and a lot of the other things are great. But if we could take a step back and improve the simple things that make it great, I think that would be a wonderful way to see these companies go. And so I'm really excited to see where the 4.4 goes, because this was actually something they were speaking to on the B-Boy Tech Report on that podcast. I think it premiered, it was on like a day ago or so, but they were talking about how, like, you know, putting too many things in and making it something else other than what it is, because the 4.4 has a big old cult following and, you know, in just the beat making community because of what it is, its simplicity, and people have taken it and used it in different ways, like making full beats out of resampling rather than using the sequencer, and just making the best out of it. So it's unique in that way that it's simple. And I think the MPC you could make a really great MPC that doesn't necessarily have all this extra fat on it. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. So I kind of want to have some beat making element to this. So I'm actually gonna, let's see if I can finger drum something naturally without messing up too much, and just show how Track Explode works. So most of you, if you've used it, you probably know. But excuse me, I'm gonna turn off timing correct. See what my timing is, or my metronome sounds like. Let me do 2 bars just to keep it quick. My time is a little off. Let me turn this metronome up. So I got it all the way up already. So timing's off. Let me try it one more time. Yeah, one more time. Okay. Let me add this this snare roll too. Let's pretend like I finger drum it all at once. Okay. Whatever. Let's go with this. So I'll layer some other stuff. Let's pretend like Let's pretend like I finger drum that whole thing, and now I want a track explode, right? So go to the pencil icon. I gotta go to right here on the track, and then where is it? I haven't used this in a while. Make sure it's here. Where is it? It's down here. Where is track explode? I'm tripping. Clear explode. Okay, it just says explode. So it just exploded everything, right? Simple as that. And it muted out my first track that has all my MIDI, all my drums. So if I go over, so I still got my same beat, but it's all exploded on different tracks. So track 1, I'll just solo it. I got my kick, right? I should. I guess not. Okay. Because these are all named, it didn't do it the way that I thought it would. So if they weren't named, if all the tracks were empty, because it just goes to the next empty track, pretend this is track 2. So my track 2 is my kick, and then next one is my snare, then my hi-hats, and my clap there from track 4, and this will probably be the snare roll. Yeah. So I mean, I want my snare roll and my... See, I got 2 different hi-hats, and they're 2 different tracks because they're on different pads. So I don't want that. See, if I got 2 different hi-hats and a closed ones and an open one, I want these to explode to the same track. Why would they be on different tracks? So that's one thing that would be a workflow improvement. It's just weird, you know? It's like, I feel like track explode was a feature request, and then we got it, and then it's just ignored. It's just, okay, there's track explode, doesn't need any more improvements. I mean, I haven't heard anyone else complain about it, but I really feel like it could be a whole lot better. That being one of the reasons. Like, if I had all these chops up here, these sample chops, why would having them on separate tracks be logical at all? It's not. So anyways, enough about that feature. But just specifically little things that make the workflow on point. Now, I think it has to be like a marriage, like a relationship between the hardware itself and the firmware. So let me just go into program edit, and it doesn't matter what sample we're looking at. But so with my Q links, I have ability to chop, right? Start point, which is great. It's awesome. It's locked in, whatever pad you press. That's great. That's super fantastic for your workflow and your ability to chop quickly. But I'm not sure if you can like use or change this, because I've never really dug deep into it. Because also you have the ability to chop with your finger, right? So that makes it easy. Makes it pretty easy. I just kind of have a preference of using knobs and stuff, so I'd rather do this. So I mean, it seems like a silly complaint or a feature request, but I think an MPC could be still great if it was simplified. You know, they brought it back a bit and focused on the hardware versus the things that make it great itself. So what I'm talking about here is with the chops. Let me go. I got my overhead because you guys aren't really seeing it, although you know this. So yeah, my start points. I could do it with a knobs, but right here, all I have is increments, which is good. But then you have more increments of the start point. What am I? Do I need this much? I mean, I guess it's useful, but no. What this should really be, maybe just have 2 increments. You know, you have this one that does it quickly, and this one slightly a little slower, so you can get a little more fine detailed. Rather than have these ones be even more fine detail, which is just overkill, these should be reprogrammed to be your endpoints. And it's simple, rather than having to go to this light. Why? I mean, it's kind of a silly complaint, because now I can do the endpoint, right? But then if I do want to go and do another one, then I gotta go and click my light and get the start points again. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of a workflow killer quite a bit. And of course, it may sound silly because you can just use your touchscreen. But I'm just not a part of the camp that thinks the touchscreen is like really super necessary to have a dope machine, to have a dope sampler. Like, because these things like these knobs, like I'm saying right here, like these top 2 start points, bottom 2 end points. That's a whole lot better than having this overkill fine tuning going on here. We don't need that. Like, I mean, it's pretty simple to get to endpoint, 1 click. But then if you want to get back to the start point and start chopping something else, okay, it starts to get kind of annoying, you know, a little bit annoying. So, I mean, these things are, I mean, it's really good as it is. And you have options. You can use a touchscreen. But I'm just saying, like, I think for me, I would like to see them step back and focus on the things that make it great rather than trying to make it a bunch of different things. You know what I mean? So let me jump in the chat, see what you guys are thinking. Dumb Jezza, what's up, brother? I use track explode when I don't want to use all of my drums. Let me see what you said. And percussion in different sequences. I use track explode when I don't want to use all my drums and percussion in different sequences. I'm trying to like grasp that statement, in different sequences. I'm not sure what you mean. The hats are making 2 different sounds, yes. I don't know if you're referring to my hats, but yeah, I have 2 different hi-hats here to make it sound a little more natural, you know what I mean? And I also have velocity, layers, and cycle on each one. So each one is making a slight variation of the same sound, and then cycling through them to make them sound a little more organic. So that's what's going on with my hi-hats there, which I wish could be on, you know, 1 track when you explode them. I guess it could explode and put all the pads in the same mute group in 1 track. Yeah, like if there was something, that's exactly what I had in mind. If you had just like mute groups, have a track explode group where you can set those pads to a specific track, and then once you explode them, it'll always explode them to that track. And I also don't like how that works. Like, you see how I tried to explode it and then it exploded over the tracks that I already had created as a template place for those tracks? Because as soon as you name the tracks, even if they're empty, when you explode, it thinks that there's something on there and it goes to the next available track. So I would like to be able to replace what's on that track. And the same with like naming sequences and stuff. Like if I could copy a whole sequence without changing the name or having to determine what the name is, so that, because this is how I set it up. I set up templates, but templates are also not even as effective, because if I have set stuff like intro, hook B, verse, I have this all set up. So like when I go in song mode, I already have a song structure. I can only have this song structure if I have my sequences already pre-named. But when I create my original sequence, so I have this original sequence where I create everything on it, and then I start copying it to each section of the song. When I do that, copy, and I go over, say I want this to be my intro, it's going to copy the original sequence name. And then I have to go and change the name. And that's another workflow killer, right? It's a detriment. It slows me down a little bit. Now I got to name this. Okay, so if I could just copy this whole sequence, maybe there'd be a function here that says keep original name, and then it'll just be that sequence data transferred over to my intro with my intro name already still there in place, if that makes sense to y'all. So back in the